Welcome to the first of three webinars made in partnership with NAR's Center for Realtor Financial Wellness. As you registered for this event, you will receive an email next week, which provides a link to the webinar on YouTube, the complete slide deck from today's presentation, and links to today's featured speaker. We encourage your questions. Please, we encourage them. Use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and questions will be answered at the appropriate time during the presentation. And now, at this time, I would like to introduce to you the person behind bringing these important financial wellness webinars to you, our 2021 Maryland Realtors President, Dee Dee Miller. Dee Dee.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome, Maryland Realtor friends. I am excited that you have chosen to embark upon this journey throughout the spring with me, discussing and learning how to better your financial position through business building, investing, and ultimately setting yourself up for retirement. Today's webinar is the first in our series of three. We have a great presentation lined up for you today, and whether you are a long timer in the business or you're brand new, we will all need a reboot every now and again. I hope that this series is inspiring and helps you, our members, to reach your personal financial goals. I know for one, I am constantly seeking out new and better ways to generate business, leverage finances, and grow wealth. Lynn will be sharing with us today some ideas to help you break down your business and financial goals and turn that into daily activities so that you can reach your goals in 2021 and beyond. Today, we'll focus on where you are, where you want to go, and how it is that you will get there. Lynn Madison is joining us today from Illinois. She is a nationally recognized real estate trainer and owner of Lynn Madison Seminars, a full-service training and development company devoted to the advancement of professionalism in real estate. Lynn has been a speaker at the NAR convention for over a decade and has spoken to realtors in over 30 states. She has authored the SFR, PSA, and ABR programs for the National Association of Realtors and is a contributing author for SRS and RENE. At the state level, she has authored the Illinois required 45-hour post-licensing course taught throughout the state. I want to hear about that later, Lynn. She has served on dozens of committees and all three levels of association work and currently serves on the professional standards and real property valuation committees at NAR. Lynn was president of her 18,000 plus local association in 2016 and was the Illinois Realtor of the Year in 2011. She's also a Golden R Hall of Fame President's Circle member of RPAC. Lynn has been devoted to getting new agents up and running and keeping them productive in the business, helping them be successful, as well as helping experienced agents who want to take their business to the next level. Start with goal setting and focusing their efforts on what works. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Dee Dee. Hello, everyone. And now that you've read the bio that my mother wrote for me, we will get started. So I'm going to get my PowerPoint up here for everyone. There we go. Say I'm thrilled to be here with you. And I'm very, very happy to be doing this particular presentation because I think it's the basis for our success in the real estate business is understanding how to set our goals and where to go about finding the business that we need to find. Okay. So as Deanne said, you will be getting a copy of the slide deck. So we already kind of know a little bit about me already, but I am available for other things besides this. So I did put my little commercial slide in there for you. So to our topic at hand. So how much money can I make in the real estate business? And as Dee Dee said, I authored and I teach what we have here in Illinois, which is our 45-hour post-licensing course. So all of our agents in Illinois have to take pre-license, pass the test, and then they have to take the 45. And I was hearing it all the time. Well, how much money can I make in the real estate business? And I tell everyone all the time, it depends on you and it depends on your market. The more you list and sell, the more money you make. Duh. You didn't come here to spend your time for me to tell you that. But also, the better you are at what you do, the more money you're going to make. So it really is up to us, but then it also depends on your market. Obviously, the higher the price point, the more you make per transaction. But in many, many cases, there are fewer upper price range transactions than there are mid to lower. So the price point may change as we go through this. So you're going to have to adjust some of what we're going to be talking about, obviously, based on that. But that's what determines how much money we're going to be able to make. So what are the steps involved in taking yourself to the next level? If you're an experienced agent, you need to look at what you did last year and what you want for this year, and really, really analyze where your business came from and where you can generate more business. So the bottom line is that, and I'm going to walk you through this, that unfortunately we have a lot of agents, when asked, where does your business come from? The answer I get is, I don't know. Well, you've got to know where it comes from, because you need to do more of what makes you successful. And so that's the steps for the experienced agents. If you're a newer agent joining us and you don't have a last year in the real estate business, you need some guidance here from your broker. What is your office's median sales price? What's your office's median compensation per sale? And what are the expenses to generate leads? And before we go, and do not worry about the antitrust side of this. I'm going to get into my full antitrust disclaimer in a couple of minutes. But the bottom line is, you don't have anything. If you're a newer agent, you don't have anything to go by. So the only thing you can go by then is what your office has been doing, because that at least is in your marketplace. Certainly it's not going to be identical to what you're going to do, but it's a place for you to start. So looking at your revenue from last year, and remember now, if you're new, you're getting this from your broker. How much did you make? How many listings did you have? How many sold? How many buyers did you have? And how many bought? And then another category that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Well, let me explain that. Referrals are the lifeblood of our business. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But it's really hard to goal for or strategize or put into your plan how many referrals you're going to get, how many referrals you're going to give, how many referrals you're going to get, et cetera. I always looked at, we've got a cake, all right? And the first layer of our cake is our listing side of the business. And the second layer of our cake is the buyer's side of our business. And then the frosting on our cake, I should have a slide for this. And the frosting on our cake is referrals. And I like frosting. I want to see a lot of frosting on my cake, but I can't make referrals happen. So it's good for you to get some idea. And what happens with my experienced agents, and many of you already know this, you start to look at what your referrals are and you start to see a pattern, and you can kind of goal for it, but it's really hard. How do you know whether or not you're going to have a buyer who's going to be moving out of the state of Maryland and wants to move into Colorado? You can't goal set for that. So I want you to factor it in. We're just not going to be able to spend a whole lot of time on that referral side of it. So I want to remind you, however, and you're going to see some other videos or some other webinars on this, you need to set goals in all areas of your life. We are just going to be focusing on your career today, and specifically your financial goals, but you really do need to set goals in all areas of your life. So I would be totally remiss if I didn't say this. When all you do is focus on your business, and I am a living, breathing example of that. I got into the real estate business when my kids were very, very young. They were only 1 and 2 years old when I got into the business. I was salesman of the year for the company I worked for, and there were 3,000 agents in that company in Chicagoland. And I was realtor of the year, my third full year in the business. So it was about 3.5 years. And I was salesman of the year, and I was almost divorced. My kids were fine. They recognized me, but I was having problems because I was goal setting in only 2 areas, to be a mom, a good mom, and to be a good realtor. And I forgot about the fact I needed to be a good wife. So ladies and gentlemen, we patched all of that up, but I'm living, breathing proof, and some of you can attest to it. You have got to set goals in all areas of your life. That said, I'm going to focus on the money and the business now. You're going to have to make sure you balance that out a little bit. So when we look at your financial goals, how much money do you want to make? And what percentage increase is that over last year? And again, if you have no last year, just how much money do you want to make? How many listings will you need to take to make that happen? How many buyers are you going to need to sell houses to make that happen? And how much is all of that going to cost you? Because you can't ignore the expense side of the business. And then how much are you going to have left? And we don't always do a really good job of this as realtors. We look at how much money we're making, but we don't always plan out for how much is going to be left at the end. We are very concerned. And one of the reasons that the Center for Financial Wellness was created was for the very real concern that the National Association of Realtors had for all of us, that we're listing and selling houses and doing a great job and making money, but we have no end game in place. We have no 401k. We've got to create our own. So we've got to really take a look at how much money we've got left when all of this is over with. Now, here's my antitrust disclaimer. There is no inference at all being made by me, Maryland Association, or anyone else by any discussion or use of any percentages or numbers in this presentation. I have to have something to work from, and these are just examples. So newer agents, you have to discuss this with your managing broker to determine for your office what your numbers are. And the experienced agents, you can use the numbers from last year. And I would also say, I keep saying last year, one of the genesis of this whole thing that I'm doing here started when I was VP and of career development for this big company that I was working for. After I was Salesman of the Year, they made me a managing broker, and then I went on to be VP and was in charge of training, career development. And I would be called in when there were agents who had been doing and producing $8 to $10 million worth of sales. And they were on track this particular year to do less than 3 or 4 million. And I would go in and sit down with them. And we jokingly said I was there to create, to help them with their slump disease. What is causing you to be that far off from where you've been? And I'll give you some examples of that as we go through. But what I started to realize is that we have experienced agents. When I ask them the question of where did your business come from last year, they look at me like I'm crazy in the head. And they go, I don't know. You got to know. And you might need to go back more than 1 year if you're not tracking it already, just to get a feel for where your business is coming from and what your numbers are. So what's your goal? All right, you're here, you want to be over there. So what's your goal? We're going to use, you want an income goal of 100,000. This is gross income, but we got to start with something. So we're just going to play the game here with 100,000. You're going to do this and fill in your own blanks, so to speak. So we're going to presume, and I took a look at it, average sales price of about $300,000. And here we go with what I said to you a few minutes ago. This depends on you and it depends on your market. If you're in a market where your median or average sales price is only $230,000, you're going to adjust this for that. If your median or average sales price is $600,000, you adjust for that. So what we're using, $300,000. So we're also going to presume, because I got to start with something, is the gross compensation per side on your transactions when you looked at your income from last year was 2.5%. And we're now going to say that, well, that means, not we're going to say, that's $7,500 per side. So now I'm going again on an assumption that you are on a 70% split with your brokerage company. If you're on a 60 split, if you're on a 90, if you're on an 85, if you're on 100, and you've got expenses, we're going to calculate expenses in a little while, but only you know what that is. So we're assuming that 70% split for our example, which means you need 19 transactions. So at $300,000 at 2.5% interest, You're retaining $52.50 off of each transaction, and you want gross income of 100,000, you need 19 transactions. So we're probably going to count that as 20 transactions as we go through this, just for the sake of math. Hey, I didn't go to school for numbers. I went to school for words. So I need to make this as easy as I can on all of us. So we need to then say, how many prospects do I need? How many prospects do I need in order to make that goal? So we're going to start with some assumptions again, and we're going to call it 20 transactions, that half of those are going to be listings sold and half of them will be sales made. And only you know, experienced agents, when you look at your last couple of years of production, what is your balance? It could be 80-20. One of the things that I changed when I almost ended up divorced back there was I switched from doing primarily buyers to primarily listings. It took a while to transition to that, but and I'll tell you how I did it in when we get towards the end here. But I did it because your time is easier. You can control your time a little bit better when you have listings than when you have buyers. So that those numbers may be different for you, but we're going to go with 50-50. Okay. So if I need 10 listings, not all listing consultations, I need 10 listings to sell. Okay. Not all of the listing presentations or seller counseling sessions are going to list with you. And you're going to hear me give you some numbers here that experienced agents, I know you are not at this level, but if you're a newer agent, like it or not, historically over many, many years, this is what we've seen in the business. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. When you first start out in the business, you're going to go on 3 listing presentations and you're going to walk away with just 1 listing. There's 2 reasons for that. One is your A game isn't really an A game. You're not really, really good enough at your listing presentation yet in order to be comfortable with it. And number 2 is that sometimes we go out on listing presentations that we didn't have a snowball's chance in where of ever listing. And the longer you're in the business, the more selective you get about you do a better job of pre-qualifying people, both buyers and sellers. So we're going to apply the 3-to-1 ratio for right now. My experienced agents, you will know better. You will know exactly what this is, because one of the things you have to look at is how many listing presentations did I go on last year and how many did I get? Because if you're in the business for 5 or 6 years and you're still at 3-to-1, ladies and gentlemen, something's not right, because that number goes to 2-to-1 very quickly, 1.5-to-1. Although I will tell you this, at one point in my career, my managing broker that I had for many, many years, my first and arguably only managing broker I had, I did leave the company when my head got so swollen that I felt that I was too good. I was too cool for school. So I left and came back immediately because I realized the grass was not greener on the other side of the septic tank, as they say. So ladies and gentlemen, I came back. But what he said to me, when I said, I need to make more money, I'm not happy with what I'm making. And he made me go through this. And I was getting every listing I went on. And he said, therein lies your problem. You're only going out on sure things. You need to stretch a little and stop just talking to people that you need more listings. So you need to stretch. So keep an eye on that. When it comes down to 1-to-1, yes, it means you're really, really good at what you do, but it also could mean that you are not taking any chances. All right. Not all of your listings are going to sell. So even right now in our sellers market that we are in across the country, we still have listings that expire, maybe not that as much as sellers who change their minds, transactions that fall apart, and the seller says, I'm not doing this again. So we're going to apply a 20% expiration factor to this. And here's the scary one. Not all of the buyers you show homes to are going to buy. I know, one more time, you signed up for me to tell you that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 4-to-1 when you're new. It is nowhere near 4-to-1 when you are experienced, but we got to start with something. So we're going to start with the statistics we've had for years, and it's 4-to-1. So the listing side of this, if I need 10 listings to sell, I need to take 12, because I got to figure that if I need 10 to sell, a couple of them are going to expire. So I need to goal myself to take 12 listings. So if I need at a 3-to-1 ratio, that means I need to go out on new agents now. I need to go out on 36 listing presentations in order for me to get that listing. And that means I need to go out on 3 a month. Now, remember, experienced agents ratio is going to be much lower than 3-to-1. And I've challenged all of my agents that I teach the 45-hour the post licensing course to. If you go out on 3 listing presentations a month, your 3-to-1 ratio will go down dramatically in very, very short amount of time, because you get that much better at your listing presentation. So we all know that these are just numbers to start with. Okay. On the buy side, sales I need are 10. I need, on a 4-to-1 ratio, I need 40 buyer clients this year in order to get 10 of them to buy. And when that means I need 4 of them a month. So I need to go on 3 listing presentations a month, and I need to get 4 be showing buyers. And I always make sure everybody understands here what we're talking about is not show 1 buyer 4 times. I need 4 different buyers: the Joneses, the Smiths, the Rodriguezes, and the Kowalskis. I need 4 different sets of buyers because they're not all going to buy. And unfortunately, we can't change that very much because we always have those ratios involved. So now we did where we are. I don't care where you are, you know where you are and where we want to go. And the next thing is, how are we going to get there? So now we know how many listing presentations I need to go on. I know how many buyers I need to have. So how am I going to get there? How many contacts do I need to create the prospects I need to create the clients I need? And ladies and gentlemen, that is what this is all about. And you have seen this before. We know what the sales funnel is. You need to put leads in the top of the funnel. You need to follow up on those leads. You convert them to actual clients, and you make sales. And we got to put enough leads in the funnel to make enough sales come out of the bottom of this. And this is the same sales funnel that every salesperson in the entire universe uses when they're planning when they're doing their income. And I know that we have some real estate agents who balk at the idea when I say salespeople and put you in that category. Get over yourself. We are salespeople. And this is what we do. There's nothing to be ashamed of in saying that I'm a real estate salesperson. And yes, we're counselors. And yes, we do all that other stuff. But for this purpose, I'm a salesman. And I need to put enough people in that funnel. So let's talk a little bit about cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads. And Dee Dee, I didn't see any questions come in on that first part. So I'm just going to keep going. If any questions pop up and you want to throw them at me, I can usually see them as well. But I think we're pretty good with continuing as we go. We'll absolutely take questions if you have them.
Yeah,
so
no
first
question, Lynn, but real quick. So, and you're probably going to get to it right about now. But on the others, trying to get with folks with listing presentations and going out, and yeah, you're not going to get them all. But I have actually found, I guess there's a couple bright lines during COVID. I have started doing listing presentations, pre-listing presentations with Zoom meetings.
Yes.
I did one the other night with a client, and it really kind of gets you going with what their motivations are. And I have found that, and that will continue, because I feel like that saves me personally time doing a pre-meeting like that, figuring out their goals and whether or not that is a listing that really I'm going to want to tackle, or, maybe I can put them on the back burner for 2 or 3 months because they're not going to be ready. And then you can work better to, utilize your time more efficiently. So if anything, we all want to see each other, but I think some of this technology is here to last, and it's going to make us work more efficiently and more effectively.
And Dee Dee, that is an excellent comment, because I do agree with that. I'm seeing that with a lot of agents, that they're rather than a phone call to get the information from the seller to do their pre-qualification and pre-listing kind of thing. They're doing it on Zoom. And everybody's at least used to Zoom enough that by now, most people are, that they're very comfortable with it. So it's an excellent idea. It's an excellent idea. So good thought, good thought. All right, so you've got cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads. So I'm going to talk to you about generating each one of these in general, and then categorizing once you've got them, because it's really two different levels. So your cold leads, those are things like mass mailings. Those are your outgoing calls. And we all know we have the do not call registry that we have to be concerned about and all that kind of stuff. But with that, we've got agents in our marketplace because we have no inventory. We are down in the Chicagoland area to about a 1.3 month supply of inventory. And if you understand absorption rate, you know, and you're probably in the same boat. When you only have less than a 4-month supply of inventory is considered to be a seller's market. 4 to 6 month supply is a balanced market, and anything more than a 6-month supply is a buyer's market. Ladies and gentlemen, a 1.3 month supply of inventory in the Chicagoland area is very scary. So what we have now are some of the agents that are literally reaching out to sellers to see if they were interested in selling their home. So somebody just asked if I would repeat those numbers. So I'll do it again, and I'll do it a little slower. The economists look at whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market by looking at something called absorption rate. And the absorption rate is if there is less than a 4-month supply of inventory, it's considered a seller's market. A 4 to 6 month supply is considered a balanced market, no advantage to either side. If you have more than a 6-month supply of inventory, that is considered to be a buyer's market. So when we have a when we're in a seller's market, we usually have very low inventory. So we've got agents who are literally doing cold calling again. And so that's still cold. That's why it's called cold calling. That is still cold leads. So when you're generating them, so I want to go through the generation part of it first. Warm leads are your sphere of influence, referrals from past clients, referrals from other agents. So those are your warm leads. You don't need to contact as many people in the warm lead category as you will in cold leads. So I'm going to do a heck of a lot of mass mailing. I'm going to do a heck of a lot of cold calling. I'm going to handle a whole lot of inquiries coming from my website before I get any true buyers out of that. I'm going to do less of that kind of activity when it comes to my warm leads. And then your hot leads, ladies and gentlemen, they can come from either of the other sources because those are the people who are qualified and in need of your services right now. And yes, it can come from your mailings. Yes, it can come from your sphere of influence. But so your hot leads, and those are the ones you have to take care of right now. And to Dee Dee's comment, that makes a lot of sense what she said. I can talk to someone on a Zoom call and and we do it on the phone. We've been doing it on the phone for years and get a feel for what how quickly they want to sell before we even go any further. So now when you're categorizing them, once I've generated them, are they a good lead or not? So if they're not qualified and not motivated, then they're not on your A list. And the warm leads they need a little more time. Their lease isn't up, their house isn't sold, they need to fix their credit, whatever that may be. You don't ignore those people. You keep them in your queue, if you will. The hot leads are those that are qualified in need of your services right now. So you've got to figure out how to nurture that and how to figure that out. So now this is what we're talking about. We're optimizing our lead management. We define our qualified leads. We develop a process to stay in touch with them. We prioritize them, we nurture them, and some of them need more nurturing than others, and then we end up with some closed sales. The other way to look at that, and this is the way I've always described it, because my way is not quite as fancy schmancy as some others. You got to separate the suspects from the prospects from the rejects, because you can't be wasting your time with a whole lot of people who are not even ready to do anything. You need to nurture them. You need to stay in touch with them, but you've got to be able to separate out the rejects are the ones you shouldn't be working with at all. The suspects are the ones that, yeah, maybe someday. And the prospects are the ones that are ready to go now. And this is where, to my newer agents that are on here with us, you get so much better at this when you've been in the business a little while. The experience helps you to be able to get through all of this. You won't waste your time quite as much the longer you're in the business. You get more selective about it. So just a reminder here, you need to make yourself visible to the public. You need to also be likable and make sure that they remember you. So ladies and gentlemen, whether or not I have my Realtor pin on, there it is. My Realtor pin does not look like everybody else's. As was in my intro, I'm a President's Circle, Hall of Fame, all kinds of stuff. The most expensive piece of jewelry I will ever wear in my entire life. All right. And I was at the grocery store and someone saw my pin and she said to me, so is that a real estate? Are you in real estate? I said, yes. She said, how's the market? And she said, we're just curious, how's the market? And I said, well, it depends on whether you're a buyer or a seller right now. And she said, well, we're both. And she proceeded to explain to me that her husband had come into quite a bit of money left to him and his two brothers by their grandmother. And in her will, they got this considerable amount of money and they could only use it to invest in real estate. Yes, my friends, grandma left them money. She left both those boys almost $1 million apiece. Grandma had game here, guys. And grandma said, you have to use it to buy real estate. I love this woman. And so they explained to me that they owned a home right now that was about $400,000 in a marketplace that I know is a hot seller's market. At that point in time, this was about 1.5 years ago, in the market they wanted to buy in, which is a town called Barrington, it was not a seller's market, it was a buyer's market, and they were buying at about 1.5 million, 1.2 to 1.5, because they wanted to use the money grandma gave them to invest in and not invest in other types of real estate. Because I don't list and sell, I sell, I don't list anymore because of my training and stuff. I'm too busy doing all of this. I referred them to someone. I took my referral fee off of a $450,000 sale and a $1.3 million purchase. And I was a very happy camper. Okay. You would have had that transaction. You would have listed that property and you would have sold him the new one. And now let me also tell you, both of his brothers, they called me and they said, one of them wants to buy commercial property in this area. The other one wants to buy something else. And I was able to refer them both. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how it works. But here's the issue. You do know that the politicians call this your elevator speech. When someone asks you how the market is, you've got to be ready to have the conversation and close them. There is nothing wrong with saying, how else can I help you? And then when she told me what was going on, I explained who I was. And I said, when's the best time for me to call you with the name of an agent that can help you with both? And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we mean about make them remember you, make yourself visible and make yourself likable. You got to be ready for this because you never know where it's going to come from. All right. Including the line at the grocery store. So be careful with that. So now you need to stay in touch with people. So once you've sold them the property, you need to stay in touch with them. And really, we've got statistics that show us all over the place how the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers, which right now, and I probably should have put something up here for you on this, but the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers for 2020 is now available on NAR's website, and it is free to all of us right now. And in there, that is the survey that they have been doing since 1981 and asking past buyers and sellers from the previous year. And it's over 170 pages long, and it's an amazing amount of statistics. And one of the things that we see in there all the time is they ask the question, would you use your agent again? And we get responses of 80, 75, 80% of the people say, yes, I would use my agent again. And then yet when they go to buy, the number drops down to only about 50, 55% of them use the agent again. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem. And what that means is that we're not staying in touch. It is the 2020 profile of home buyers and sellers. So I'm gonna, and Dan's listening to this. So Dan, when you send them the handout and stuff, we might want to give them the link to the profile of home buyers and sellers so that they can take a look at it. So here's the issue. And I'll be honest and tell you, when I was actively listing and selling, I didn't get to be salesman of the year because I was a wallflower, folks. When you sold one of my listings, if you were in my office, I did not do this, but if you were with a competing broker, your buyer went into my database. Your buyer's in my database. And I would have people go, well, you can't stay in touch with my buyer. I'm sorry. There's no agency relationship with your buyer once the transaction is over with. And I cannot tell you how many houses I listed over the years that were my listings when they bought it. Somebody else sold it to them, but they called me because I stayed in touch with them. So what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? You're going to have to budget time and money for that. And I wanted to share with you just for an example, and you will get this chart as well. This is from the NAR course, Generating Buyer and Seller Leads. And just an example of some of the things that you can do to stay up in touch with people, because they do forget you're in the real estate business. They do meet other people who are in the real estate business. And if you don't stay in touch with people, and you need to, guys, because if you don't, somebody like me is going to come along and I'm going to cement that relationship. So when you get this, take a look at it. There's some thoughts and ideas in there about how to do that. So who is in your sphere of influence? Most of you who are experienced already know this, but I want to make sure this is really more for our newer agents. Everyone is. Everybody is your sphere of influence. And you need to make sure that they know that you are in the real estate business. And you need to reach out to them. And I have had some of the newer agents say to me, I can't do this, Lynn. I can't use my friends and relatives to move my business forward. And I take them aside and I go, you have got to change that attitude. You are not using them in any way. You are giving them the opportunity to work with someone who is going to take care of them in the largest single investment they are ever going to make in their lives, which is the purchase or the sale of a piece of real estate. You are going to assist them with that. This is not you using them to further your business. So if that's your attitude of I can't reach out to my family and friends, I need to reach out and I need to do that. So a question just came in on working individually or on a team. I see, and across the country, not just here in Chicagoland, I see very, very, very successful people in both arenas. There are a lot of agents that I have seen that started off on a team, got their feet wet, got the mentoring they needed on the team, and then they went off and did their own thing, and have become very successful. I have also seen other people who never went on a team, and they are extreme. I see teams that are not that successful. So I don't know that team or individual makes a lot of difference, because I think it's all up to us. And all of that. So I don't think there's a lot of difference. Commercial versus residential. It's the same thing. Whether you're in commercial real estate or residential real estate, you got to do the same thing. You've got to reach out. You've got to set your goals. You've got to do it the same way. So yeah, it's gonna be the same for both of those. So how are you going to develop business? And again, we've only got an hour together. So I don't have time to go into each individual one of these things. I am going to try to touch on geographic farming when we get to, hopefully I'll have time for that. If not, it's all in your handout. But that's one of the things you can do. Choose an area of your marketplace that you are going to specialize in. And you are going to reach out to those people on a monthly basis and let them know you're in the real estate business. However, geographic farming is long-term prospecting. I've had people say, well, I tried that for a couple of months and I didn't get anything. It isn't going to bring you business in a couple of months. We've got an agent here in the Chicagoland area who I have mentored in a way since she got into the business about 5 or 6 years ago. She has now got 80%, 80% of all of the transactions in her 400 area farm are hers, either her listings or she sells them. 80%. Ladies and gentlemen, that is unheard of. I was an avid geographic farmer when I was selling. And by the way, that's what I did to save my marriage. I focused on listings. I said, how am I going to get them? And I'm going to farm the area I live in. And I had about 40% of the business. And I thought I was in the tall cotton, folks, because that's a lot of business. So you can use that. You can call on for sale by owners. You can work expired listings. You're going to get leads from your website, or if you're doing a blog, you can pay for your leads on all the places you can pay for them. I'm not going to name names. You can go, you figure that out. You can do open houses. It's going to come from your yard signs. You know all of this. This is where your business is going to come from, but none of it's going to come from there if you do not work it. So it is, and I just described geographic farming. It is an area that you choose to specialize in, and you are going to contact them with, and you're going to choose an area and you become their local expert. And again, in the back of this, I've got, even if I don't get a chance to talk about it in the last, because we only got less than 20 minutes to go here. There is, because I think it's such a good way for you to generate business. So I've got it in there for you. Okay. The other thing I want you to do is try everything, especially my newer agents now, and even my experienced agents who are going, I want to take it to the next level. I want you to try everything. And once you figure out what works, then I want you to do more of that. So I want you to do expireds, and I want you to do for sale by owners, and I want you to do I want you to do your Facebook posts. I want you to do all of that stuff. And then once you figure out what works, you need to do more of that, because that's what's working for you. So you need to keep track. You need to keep track of where your business is coming from. And this is where even some of our experienced agents have not done this. Where are your leads coming from? So every time you get a buyer and every time you get a seller, I want you to start tracking where they came from. And then I want you to track how many leads are resulting in closed sales from that source. So if you have, for example, you're paying for leads on 2 different online sources. I'm trying to do this without mentioning names, but Realtor.com is one of them. Okay. And some other thing is another one of them. All right. I'm not even going to give them it's he who shall not be, who shall not be named. Okay. So you're paying for these leads, and you realize that out of all of the leads you're getting from the ABC company and the leads you're getting from Realtor.com, from OpCity, your OpCity leads are turning into more clients than the ABC company leads are. Then stop putting money into the place where the leads are not working for you. Put the money, your hard-earned money, into getting more leads from that which works, but you're never going to know that. You're never going to know that unless you try everything, okay? And unless you track it. So what type of communication do you need to have with the different types of leads? Is it email? Is it texting? What's working? And you've got to kind of track that as well. And then you've got to look at your ROI, your return on investment. How much money are you spending? And I just said that, but how much money are you spending to get these leads? So how much is each one of these leads costing you? And is it worth it for you to keep throwing good money after bad at a place that's not giving you quality leads? And you've got to start tracking, because I want you to put your money where the quality leads are at. And it does happen. And it fluctuates. In the agents, I have a cadre of about 10 agents in the Chicagoland area. Most of them top producing agents, some of them teams, some of them not, that we brainstorm together a lot. And they are willing to share. I know they do not share everything in our little brainstorming sessions, because they didn't get where they are by sharing all of their trade secrets. I get that, but they'll share them with me. Not all of them probably, but most of them. And it has fluctuated for them from Realtor.com or OpCity leads are primo leads to they're not so good right now, but the ones from the alphabet place, they are turning out to be better leads. So keep an eye on how all of that's working out. Now, I want to make sure I talk to you about expenses, because that $100,000 we just goal set for is gross income before you pay all of your expenses. And there's where a lot of us fall apart. We go, I made $100,000 last year. No, you did not. You grossed 100,000, but your net was nowhere near that. So once you do back your expenses out of this, you may realize I don't need to make just 100,000. I want to net more than that, than this is netting me. I need to make 130,000 in order to net what I need. So you got to do the expenses, and your expenses come in 3 buckets, if you will. You got business expenses that are never going to change, whether you're successful or not successful. No matter what you do, you got business expenses. You've got lead generation expenses, which you can choose to spend your money on lead generation or not. And then you've got marketing your listings. And I do want to share something with you very quickly. About 5 years ago, two men who got into the real estate business at about the same time. One of them transferred, his wife was transferred here to the Chicago area. She is making a high 6-figure income in her job. He wanted to get into the real estate business, knew no one here, and was paying literally thousands of dollars a month for all of his leads. He did 24 transactions in his first 12 months in the business, but he paid for every lead because he had no sphere to get leads from. I met at about the same time another young man who was born and raised here in the Chicago area, went away to college, met his husband in college. They moved back here. Husband has the job, entry level position, nowhere near high 6-figure income. And our guy now, we're going to call him Eric for a moment. Eric wants to get into the real estate business. Eric didn't have the money that Joe had, the other. He spent his time reconnecting with everybody he went to high school with, his year, the year before him, the year after him, on social media and other ways. He also did 24 transactions in his first 12 months, and he never paid a dime for his leads. So I am not saying to you that you have to pay for your leads. I'm saying if you're going to, you're going to need to. When I say he didn't pay for his leads, he still did some marketing he paid for, but not thousands of dollars a month paying for his leads. And then you have to market your listings. And keep in mind right now, and we've got a lot of agents who have gotten in the market recently, they've never been in a buyer's market. They've only worked in a seller's market. And I talk about marketing the listings and they look at me and go, what? All I got to do is put it in the MLS, and then 5 of the buyer agents write offers, and we get into a bidding war, and I make money. I get it. All right. And if you honestly think it's going to stay that way forever, yeah, I got some swampland in Kansas I can sell you. All right. Because we all know the market keeps changing. I am not anticipating it's going to change at all, at least through 21. I'm right along with everybody else. It's pretty much going to stay pretty strong, but it could change. So now, your business expenses. These are the things, your business cards, your office expense, your phones, your MLS fees, your association fees, that doesn't change. So and you've got to list out every single one of your business expenses. This is what it costs me annually to be in business. And I want this all, when I do this, and I used to do the slump disease thing, and when the doctor would come in and cure your slump disease, I would tell them, I want annual. I don't want to just take the monthly or whatever it is, but we got to figure out what it is. Don't forget your taxes and your retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, it is amazing to me how many of us, no matter how long we've been in the business, we're scrambling well, pretty much most of us don't do our taxes on April 15th. We do an extension on April 15th because we don't want to mess with it yet because we're in the middle of the spring market. I don't know why the IRS can't change when my taxes are due, because I don't want to have to work on my taxes in the middle of the spring market. Well, they don't care. So ladies and gentlemen, whether you're paying them now or paying them later, you got to pay your taxes. You need to be putting something away out of every one of your checks to go towards your taxes. And you've got to think about your retirement. And that's going to be covered, I know, in some of the other sessions that you guys are going to have. Not the taxes part of it as much as investing for your retirement. All right. Now, your lead generation expenses. Those are if you're going to pay for social media placement. I have a friend of mine right now here in Chicagoland. We have the chain of lakes up in the northern part of the state. I used to live up there. We had a house on the water. My husband passed away a few years ago. I did save my marriage. My husband did pass away a few years ago. But we lived up there for years on the water. And this very, very good friend of mine, as a matter of fact, he's the one who listed my house for me after my husband passed away. He's always, his tagline has always been your link to the chain. It's called the chain of lakes, and he's the link. He's been, his ad pops up on Facebook when I'm on there almost every time. And I asked him the other day, is that working? And he said, amazingly so. So you might want to look at, for lead generation, ad placement, Facebook ad placement. That's one of the things. So what are you doing? How are you generating your leads, and what is that costing you? And then marketing your listing. When you have the listing. Now, some of these places are automatically going to get your listing by putting it into the MLS, but what else are you doing in order to market your listing? So the bottom line here is your general expenses, plus your lead generation, plus marketing your listings, plus your taxes and retirement equal your total expenses. So when you look at your total expenses and you go, wait a minute, that is, and I am making up a number now, that is $25,000 a year. And I really don't even know necessarily what my marketing, my listings expenses are going to be. Depends on how many listings you have, but we go with 25,000. Now you need to make 125. Because if you wanted $100,000 a year, you ain't going to get it unless you factor in what your expenses are going to be. And unfortunately, too many of us in the business don't always factor all of those things in. So if you're not making enough money, then what are we going to do about that? We got to go back to the beginning. If you're not making enough money when you look after you've deducted your expenses, then we start all over again. And we go back and we say, now I got to redo these numbers to make 125,000. So it's no longer just 10 listings and 10 buyers. Now it might be 12 or 13, whatever the numbers are, that you're going to need to do. You got to go back. Now, I did want to at least take a couple of minutes to talk to you about some of the things that this young man, I called him Eric, was doing to generate leads that were low tech, low cost. And I know I have on there wake up early. But I just want to give you a good example of this. Unfortunately, most realtors don't wake up till 10 o'clock in the morning. I know that was a vast generalization, but we get a little slow start. All right, this agent, we have a town in Illinois called Naperville, and everybody wants to live in Naperville. Well, Naperville thinks everybody wants to live in Naperville, but that's pretty true. And there are downtown condos in Naperville that sell, they're pretty pricey. But they sell as fast as they come on the market. And this one agent had a young couple who wanted to buy a downtown Naperville condo. And every time they went to go buy one, it was already sold. So she started waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and getting the hot sheet off of the MLS. Every MLS I know has something called a hot sheet. And if you're not familiar with what it is, then go to your MLS and see if you've got one. But generally what it is every single day, whatever area you've asked the MLS for information on, it will tell you the new listings that have come on, the listings that have been had price reductions, the properties that have sold, the properties that have expired. So that's what shows up. She found a brand new Naperville condo at 3 o'clock in the morning. She texted the listing agent at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, can I show your new listing at 7:30 this morning? This was already lined up with her buyers, folks. And the listing agent at about 6:30, when that listing agent was, she texted back and said, yes, my seller said it was fine. They're packing, they're going on vacation, but you're welcome to show it. She showed it at 7:30 in the morning. And by 9 o'clock, when the rest of us all woke up, the property was sold. Her buyer wrote an over list price offer and wrote in the offer that they would pay the difference between the sales price and the appraised value if it didn't appraise, and also got the seller's agreement to not continue to show their property and take backup offers. So they went in $10,000 over list price. They wanted the property. They said, we'll pay the difference if it doesn't appraise. And the seller on the contract agreed not to continue to show the property. Ladies and gentlemen, she woke up early. She was there before the rest of us got it. And you know what's really interesting is the listing agent told us this story in a class. And the listing agent said she started getting phone calls 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and she told everybody it was sold. She had 2 agents who filed complaints against her under the Code of Ethics and the MLS rules for not allowing the property to be shown because nobody could believe that it sold that fast. Grow up and wake up. All right. So there's a lot of things on there. I mentioned wearing your pin. I already talked about get over yourself. There's nothing wrong with you reaching out to your friends and relatives and all the rest of that stuff. So take a look at just some of those ideas that are going to be low cost, low tech. And my time is almost up. But I gave you in there how to go about doing this geographic farming, because I will tell you, a lot of people are not doing it. It is not short-term prospecting. It is long-term prospecting. You've got to build your reputation within that community. It does not have to be an area you live in, although it is really good if it is, but it does not have to be long-term for that. So I gave you in your handout that you will get how to identify a farm area. You need to have an area that has some turnover. So you need to identify your farm area, figure out who's going to be there. Are they likely to be going to sell? So I gave you all of that. So in my wrapping this up, and then we'll look and see if we have any questions. Just a couple of thoughts. If it's not working, stop running the same play. If you're not okay with the income you have, then the only thing you've got to change what you're doing, because you can't keep running the same play and expect it to work. Are we in a football mindset right now? Yeah, the Super Bowl. And we say it. For those of us who are football enthusiasts, we know this. We yell at our television set sometimes going, why are you running the same play? So if it's not working, stop running the same play. Another thought, everything in your life is a reflection of a choice you have made. If you want different results, make different choices. This is all up to us. And it's not who the company that you work for. It is not it's not anything other than a choice that we make. You know, what's really amazing right now with the COVID issue that's happening all across the country. This has been the best year that many, many people have ever had. And at the same time, we have people struggling. So how do you have agents in the same marketplace, some of them in the business for 15 years or more, and this is the best year they've had by far, and then other people who can't even make ends meet? It's all about how much you're going to put into it and what you're going to do. So our goal today was to give you some tips on how to do everything I just said, which is change your play, or if you want something different, you've got to change. What is the definition of insanity? To keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Basically, what we're saying is you want a different result, you're going to have to change what you're doing. So,
Lynn, there's a couple of questions over there.
Go ahead, Dee.
So someone mentioned earlier, you mentioned sellers about selling their homes roughly 80% of the time. What percentage of buyer clients end up buying?
Well, we use the 4-to-1 ratio to start with, because what we find, those of us who've been involved in education in the real estate business for many, many years, is that when agents are really new in the business, they're taking out 4 different buyers. So it's 4-to-1.
Okay.
The ratio is 4-to-1. It gets much, much better the more we are capable of qualifying those buyers. We went through the prospect, suspect, reject thing. But yeah, it's going to be 4-to-1 to start with. I'm hoping that for all of the experienced people here, that ratio is much smaller than that.
It gets better. I mean, I'm 21 years in, and it really comes to the point where you learn how to read people better, and you can weed out the ones that are just, running you around because they want to hang out with you. And before you drove them around in your car, now you don't, but you meet them and all
and one of the things, and one of the things I tell all the new agents is don't be discouraged with the fact that when you look back on it, you wasted wasted your time with these people. No, you didn't. You learned how to open the key boxes. You learned how to make appointments. You learned how to show property. And you were really practicing on someone who probably wasn't going to buy anyway, so you didn't lose a buyer. I mean, really, you got to look at
it. The market. You know, you're out looking, you're previewing houses. So guess what? At that time when that seller comes in and they say, hey, here's where my house is. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I showed like 6 houses there, you know, in the past 2 months. I've seen every single one. Now you just bettered yourself for understanding the market to help that client even more. And then you'll probably get that listing when you go in and say you've seen all those houses.
Absolutely. And it does make a difference. So yeah, I don't want to discourage any of the newer agents going, oh my God, this is going to go on forever. No, it's not. And you've learned a lot from it. So it's interesting. One of the other quotes that I use sometimes is experience is a funny thing. It gives you the test first and then it teaches you the lesson. So yeah, it's true. Experience.
I like that one.
Backwards.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a hard stop on this right at 2 o'clock. So we'll take a couple minutes and do a couple more questions. If you have time,
go right ahead.
We'll do it. Okay. How the next one, someone's asking about how much you recommend agents add to their budget for client closings, appreciation, referral gifts. They're struggling with that.
Yeah. That's a hard one to quantify because it depends on the market. And the reason I say that is, let's face it, what you're going to give to somebody you sell $1 million house to might be very different than what you give to somebody that is $250,000 house. That said, I also know agents that it doesn't make any difference. They have a set gift that they give, whether it's Cutco, do you know what I mean? The knives or whatever. So I always budgeted, and you know, it's interesting because you're the first group that's mentioned it. And I've done this presentation many, many times. I didn't really have a line item in there for that. And I probably should put one. Gifts. If I don't write it down on my notes, I'll forget to add it. I budgeted, although this was years ago, I budgeted $100 per transaction for my gifts. Now, if that's too much or not enough for you, so what is it that you are comfortable with giving? But let me also share something else with you. Whenever I sold property, when I had the buyer, I had baskets. I went to the Dollar Tree or whatever, and I just bought a laundry basket. And in that laundry basket, I put toilet paper, paper towels, a bottle of wine, 6-pack of Coke. I put a coupon in there for pizza. I put light bulbs in there. And I gave that to the buyer at the closing. I got better response from my care package than I ever got from the expensive gifts I was giving them. Because think about it, they go to move into the house and there are sellers who take the toilet paper. There's no paper towels in there. The truck hasn't delivered their stuff yet. They're missing light bulbs. So yeah, but that only cost you what? $30 maybe at the most. So
toilet paper is a big commodity this year. Hey, I'm thinking your clients are loving you when you show up with some toilet paper.
Absolutely.
Paper towels and toilet paper, big deal.
I budgeted $100 per transaction. That worked for me, but I don't know if that's going to work in your marketplace. Depends on what you want to give them. Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we are. I mean, that's what for me personally, that's about what I budget per each one. But I kind of look at it as holistically, here's everything we're going to sell this year. This is what I'm going to spend total on gifts instead of by each one.
Yeah. But when I was trying to calculate it out, I just figured if I was going to I was going to have 10 buyers, 10 sellers, or I do 20 transactions, I'm going to do about $100 a piece because I gave my sellers something as well as the buyers. And I should mention that a lot of people forget about the sellers,
right?
Especially if the sellers move out of town, move out of state. I don't want you need to keep them they still have friends and relatives back there in Maryland, even if they move to Colorado. It is amazing. And then they come back sometimes. So yeah, I always kept them in there. And I made sure took care of them too. So any other questions that we had?
Yeah, so someone asked about the limit for IRS for gift giving. I'll defer that out to say, check with your accountant just to make sure on that in case things have changed. I know what my accountant tells me, but we won't get into the tax end of that. And then let's see, what support is available for independent brokers? I'd like to talk about that a little bit from Maryland Realtors perspective, because really, I mean, the association by much of what we do exists for small brokers, really, because we have the legal hotline. Certainly that's available to all members, but especially for individual brokers that maybe you don't have an attorney on retainer. And then the resources through the hot sheet and the updates and the forms and everything that's offered out, as well as, feel free to call me, president of the association right now, that I'm welcome to walk you through anything else benefit-wise for Maryland Realtors, because the vast majority of brokerages within our footprint really are small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people within a brokerage. So we really are here as a resource for everything. And mentioned earlier, Lynn, you mentioned about the buyer profile. I recently learned on NAR's website that there's an entire library that you can check out books. I mean, oodles of books, you name it, like every imaginable sales book you could ever want. Don't buy it, just go to NAR's library and you can download it onto whatever platform that you use on your phone, or you can do it directly to your computer, however, or audiobook too. And you can just listen to it and read it like for 21 days, you can check it out. And if you're not done, you can check it out again. It's free, totally free.
Yeah.
So go there for that. That's a wonderful resource as well. So let's see any other questions we've got here.
I see one about following up with past clients. You want me to
That's a good
handle?
one.
Yeah. If you haven't been following up with past clients in the last couple of years, any suggestions about getting back in touch with them? So I would say that this is a perfect time to do that, because you could be reaching out to them now and saying, especially if they were people that they're potential sellers, and talking to them about how much we need inventory and that this is a really good time to sell your home. Reach out to the past buyers, that someone who may be a buyer, and talk to them about the interest rates being lower. So I would reach out to them now. If they're friends of yours on Facebook, for example, I want to give you another place where you can go to get information to stay in touch with people, and that's houselogic.com. That is an NAR benefit for us. And you can go to houselogic.com, HOUSELOGIC.com. And there is a place there you can click on, and you can repurpose every one of the articles that House Logic has for you to be able to use as posts on your Facebook or your social media, wherever you want to put it. And there's really good articles there, articles like why this is the right time to buy, why this is the right time to sell, but it might give you the ability to reach out. And even if you're not trying to reach out to people that you haven't been in touch with, it's a really, really good resource, houselogic.com.
That's great. In addition to that one, Maryland Realtors actually has put together buyer and seller packets that are for use for all of our members that you can customize for yourself and put those out also to your clients. So that's a really great resource that has just happened in the past year, basically, that we've put that together. And it's right on Maryland Realtors website. So we are about 9 minutes past 2 at this point. So we will wrap it up. And I think we can all agree that Lynn is by no means a wallflower, as she said earlier. She's been fabulous today. I think this was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
And I can't thank you enough. I think you were spot on. There were things today that I know that I did, and then we get busy and we're in the midst of transactions and the market gets busier and busier, and we forget to do the basics, and then we just fail to execute those. And really those are the foundation that we need to be remembering and take us back really to the nuts and bolts of the industry. Some of us that are more old timers, and for the new folks, really seriously start with the basics. Don't try to jump in and do 7 Facebook videos, because that may not get a foundation going. And I think that goes miles farther than trying to hit this and hit that and everything else in between. So we appreciate your time today, Lynn. I want to let everybody know this was fabulous. To join us for our next webinar, someone mentioned in the chat about the success of being a realtor and an investor. Also something for me, we have rental properties, my husband and I, we're rehabbing one right now. It's an interesting task. And the next webinar that is March 4th is Michael Simpson, and he is going to be talking about real estate investing, and that is at 1 p.m., just like this was. And you can click on the banner on Maryland Realtor's homepage to register for that, or look for it again on an email reminder coming to you from Maryland Realtors on the next hot sheet. And join us for the next one in a month. And this has been great. Thanks for your attention, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day and go out and prosper and be well.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye.